feel like this band, I think one of the blessings about it is that every step of the way has been kind of like a surprise, and we've never really like expected anything from, you know, like we got our first show and we're like, sweet, that was awesome, and then like I guess the next step was to play more shows, but further than that maybe to like sign to a label, and then that happened, and I was like, okay, that's really cool, awesome, you know, and then it was like, all right, let's go on tour, and then that happened, and so it's just, I don't know.
Very steady instead of just like going from like local shows to all of a sudden like tons of major labels and then like national tours and stuff. And I think because of that, and because of the way we're wired as people, there were never like delusions of grandeur and like, oh, we need this to be like this amazing, huge, successful thing. It was just, let's take these small steps as they come, take advantage of opportunities, do what we want to do, and just roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of bands have trouble if they're presented with too much success too early, and it didn't really happen that way for us. It was very, very steady climb, which is something I'm really grateful for. I don't think any of us are wired in a way that if we were presented like with something like that it would affect us negatively, but we've definitely seen it happen to other bands where like they blow up really quick and then maybe goals or aspirations get clouded a bit and it makes it more difficult.
So were you nervous for the first Thrice tour ever?
Totally.
Yeah, I think so. What was I think Sam
I Am was the first actual like tour beyond just like doing a weekender to like Vegas or Northern California.
We went out to Texas and back.
And that tour actually got canceled, a portion of it. I think it was supposed to be a 3-week run, and it ended up being a week because the singer of Sam I Am was having like some family trouble or something. But the first like legit US tour we did was 2001, and it was the Take Action tour, Plea for Peace tour that was put on by our label at the time, Subsidy. And it was Cave In, Hot Water Music, Alkaline Trio, the Eyeliners, Selby Tigers, a lot of bands. But
Wait, was Hot Rod on that, or was it different?
It was different. But I think, you know, we had been fans of Cave In and fans of Hot Water Music and Alkaline Trio, and to think about being on the road with them for 8 weeks was pretty terrifying in a lot of ways. But those bands were all so cool to us and taught us so much, not only in what they did on stage every night, but just kind of taking us under their wings and teaching us about what it's like to be a band on the road.
What was some of the advice that Steve Brodsky gave you guys?
I don't know if it was like any actual like advice. It's more like, I don't know. I mean, they at that time had probably been touring for a few years already, and so just kind of like seeing how they work their stuff, and you know, also then everybody else being patient with us being new to everything.
Yeah, their actions spoke way louder than their words did. I mean, they all, as musicians, are very accomplished, and their tones are great, and they're incredible players, and being able to watch them play every night was really inspiring, and in a lot of ways I think defeating, because it was like, holy crap, if we're gonna do this, like really gonna be a touring band, we need to try to get to that level, because they were just at the top of their game at the time, like totally killing it. It was like Jupiter era, and
so that was before they signed to RCA for Antenna.
They were getting courted by majors on that tour, but they were just every night just killing it, and it was so inspiring to watch.
And then as time moves on, in 2003 you guys did Warped Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Glassjaw was also on that as well.
Yeah.
Are there any fond memories from that tour?
Yeah, that was a really cool Warped Tour, because it was us, Glassjaw, Poison the Well, did it, Brand New.
Brand New was on it, Coheed was on it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of good stuff, I just can't remember.
I think Hot Water was on part of that. Alkaline might have been on part of it. It's just really cool to be that young and have it be that early in our career and be in a festival setting where there are so many bands, but feel at home in a way, just because you have so many friends and that's a long and grueling tour, as I'm sure many bands have told you, and to be surrounded by friends and bands that are kind of like-minded in what they're trying to do and what they want out of making music, which is just, I guess, honesty and heart, was inspiring and made it a lot more comfortable than I think that tour can be for a lot of bands.
Do you feel Warped Tour itself has changed over time? I did an interview with Matt Embry over RX Bandits, and Matt Embry said that the violent consumerism of Warped Tour kind of hurt his feelings a little bit, and he referred to it as a punk rock shopping mall. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I haven't really been to Warped Tour since we last took part in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard to comment.
I kind of keep tabs on what's going on from year to year, but like Teppei, I haven't really been since we played, and I think the last time we played was maybe 2009 or 8.
I mean, it's one of those things where I don't really kind of keep tabs on that whole world anyway, so I don't really even know what's happening in it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it seems like it's gotten a bit, from what I've noticed, it seemed like it was very punk rock centric for a while, and then it started to branch out like in 2003-ish, 4 or 5, and then now in a lot of ways it seems like it's kind of gotten more homogenous again, in kind of a metal-y, moshy, synthy kind of thing. But maybe that's just I look at the lineup and I'm like, I don't know half of these bands or 3/4 of these bands, but the bands I do know some of them sound kind of similar, but I don't know. I don't keep tabs on that too closely.
Changing the subject a little bit, I'm curious as to your connections with the Deer Hunter. I know in 2007 you guys toured with Norma Jean, and The Receiving End of Sirens was also on that, which was Casey's other band. I'm not sure if Casey was actually on that tour.
It was actually Brian, our tour manager. Had replaced Casey. He
Really?
played for Trios, yeah.
That's crazy. Holy shit.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that was our first experience with them, I think, right?
Oh,
no.
No,
We
Taste
did
of Chaos.
Taste of
Yeah.
right.
That's when Casey was still
Yep,
in the band.
Casey was still in the band. So yeah, we met them when we were doing Taste of Chaos in 2006.
That might have been even before. 5-ish.
I don't know.
The mid-2000s is very blurry.
And yeah, I mean, super cool guys, and just got to know them, and we're friends with them. We did a few dates with, like we were saying, with Norma Jean, and then I don't know. I mean, you kind of make friends with people, and you see them around. It's a small world, and you see them at festivals, or you see them overseas at random thing or whatever. So, just been running into those guys for a while here and there, and then did a tour with the Deer Hunter, who obviously is Casey, and then at the time Nate
was in the
who
band.
played
Filled in
for
on
Trio.
bass for you as well in the UK.
Yep. Yeah. So he
Or,
was
well,
playing
guitar.
Yeah. So he was playing bass on that tour, and then that was the tour that I had to bail on, and so he stepped up to the plate, learned all my stuff in a day pretty much, and then finished the tour out. Yeah. It's awesome.
That tour, it was Nate was playing
Oh, that's right.
a
Joey.
third.
Yeah, that's right.
Casey was playing a third, and Joey, who's now in Black Cloud Collective, I think, that Brandon Sallers from Betray's new band.
Oh, really?
So we had the set split up into 3 parts, and 3 dudes would come out and
That's right. I
play.
forgot about that.
And then Teps couldn't go to the UK with us, and Nate ended up coming out and playing all this stuff, and
Yeah.
definitely helped us out.
So we actually just saw those guys. We saw Nate and Eric, who was in the Deer Hunter previously when we toured with them in Boston, and then we actually just played a show with the current lineup of the Deer Hunter in Salt Lake City. Our tour and Manchester Orchestra's tour, I think we were kind of converging, and so we just met in the middle at Salt Lake, and we played this big 7-band bill.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was cool. Yeah, it was
So you mentioned Casey and you mentioned Nick Beard earlier in the conversation. When you look at, you guys have been doing it for so long, when you look at your friends and people that you've known for over a decade and you see how their careers have developed, how does that make you feel? Do you feel like you've come so far?
I think it's cool. I mean, especially with dudes like Nick.
Yeah.
I've known Nick for well over a decade now.
Yeah.
I actually first met him when I was going to community college, right out of high school.
Oh.
And so, yeah, it's cool, we see him around all the time, and I'm stoked for him. He's playing music and he's making it happen, and yeah, it's great. Yeah. Kind of proud, I guess, of
Yeah,
friends.
very proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about in terms of your career? You didn't really expect any of this.
Yeah. I think we just feel fortunate to be here, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds kind of cliche to say, and almost like you're trying to say the right thing, but it's true. I feel very fortunate to be here, and I think we've tried really hard not to take anything for granted along the way, and I've been very thankful that we're still here.
Yeah.
This is random, but have you heard Like Moths the Flames, the band?
No.
Which I'm assuming comes from a Thrice song.
Huh.
I've seen the name, but I haven't heard.
I thought I would.
Single note.
Oh really? I haven't heard of that.
I thought I would just point that out to you. I thought that was interesting, as with Moving Mountains, but they've been a band longer, I think.
I think they're probably named after the Casket Lottery record, or I would hope so. Anyway.
On a different topic, major minor, Dave Schiffman versus Brian McTernan. How does that differ in terms of production?
It's hard to say because I feel like Dave's roles have been really different than Brian's in the past. Like, Dave engineered Visu, so didn't have any producing role in that, so he was just there kind of, doing the knobs and faders, in charge of how the record actually sounded sonically, and then mixed Beggars, and then kind of did everything on major minor, but we also brought him in really late in the process, so he, as far as producing, he didn't have a lot to do with the I guess song writing aspect of things. Obviously in the studio he had a huge say, huge impact on how everything sounded, but with Brian, especially with artists, we really worked with him from the ground up.
Yeah.
Had him fly out a bunch of times to do pre-production with us, and had him sit in with us writing songs, and he was giving input from the ground up pretty much. So it was a really different experience.
What's his philosophy like in terms of music and technology? Are there ways to abuse technology?
I think there's definitely ways to abuse technology. I don't know. It's hard. I mean, we haven't worked with him since Artist, so I don't really know, how he's doing things now. But I mean, I think that the last couple records, especially that we've done, has been almost a reaction against the ability to abuse technology these days.
Yeah.
I think you end up with really stale sounding, robotic, kind of non-human records, which I think is awkward because to me, music is like a human expression, and when you pull the human out of that, then it's really weird. And so I think we've been pretty focused on making sure that that's there in our recordings. For major minor, we recorded live, at least Riley, myself, and Eddie, the bass player. So I mean that alone has a huge, I think, impact on how just the overall kind of vibe of the recording. Yeah.
I feel like we've been utilizing the ease that new technology in recording provides, but not abusing it in using it to manipulate stuff, which I think is where a lot of newer rock or metal music is kind of blowing it in a lot of ways, is instead of making it easier to actually capture sounds, they're using it to manipulate sounds and pull everything to a grid and chop like pauses out and make things sound almost, not almost, but make things sound too perfect. Like, I don't know. I get really stoked when I hear like a really technical record, especially if it's like something that's metal, like, I don't know, like a Mastodon or Ken Mode or something that's not chopped to bits and quantized, and so something that sounds real and technical, where you're like, these are real people that are shredding, instead of hearing a record that is like very technical but obviously just like chopped up to a grid and made totally perfect. I don't know. I like the gap between what you hear on record and what you see live to be very small. Like it sucks to hear some record that sounds really perfect and then go see it live and it's like, whoa, that was a disaster.